What's going on, my trainer club? We have Entei finishing up in raid days today. So we want to know, is he one of the best fire attackers and is he worth powering up? So that's what we're going to do today. So welcome to the trainer club. Here we go. Welcome back, everybody. Congratulations on your Entei raid day. Let me know in the comments, what are your celebration big wins for the days? How many raids did you do? Did you get shinies or how many? And did you get close or 100% IV? So for me, I really want this. Obviously, I'm filming this before the raid day starts, but my goal is to get that 100% IV because I've done a lot of Entei raids and I really like him. He's super cool, but that doesn't matter. My opinion, what does matter is number one, that you're subscribed to this channel because we have a ton of information coming up, especially in the next week. We have community day on the horizon, so you definitely want to be sharing my videos, to be subscribed to my channel and have those notifications turned on. But now we are going to get into, is Entei number one the best attacker for the fire? We're going to check out the different types of measurements, and then number three, we're going to check to see if it's worth your time, stardust, and resources to power him up. So for a lot of you guys, you've been with me for a while, you've watched some of my other videos. If you understand what DPS is, what TDO is, and what DPS times TDO is, you can check the pinned comments for the stamp to skip over the intro, which is going to cover that. But if you don't and you are new to this channel or you want a refresher before we go into it, that's what we're going to do right now. So here we go. Number one, we are going to check out DPS. DPS is going to stand for damage per second. It is going to be a measurement of how much power a Pokemon can do when you are attacking with him. Number two, we are going to check out the TDO. TDO is going to stand for total damage output, meaning over the lifespan of the Pokemon, how much damage can it put out overall? So over each attack, over the entire life. Obviously, the more HP heavy Pokemon have a better chance to put out more TDO. As far as the DPS go, the glacier Pokemon, let's think of this. Like a Gengar is going to have really high DPS, but his TDO is going to be low. A Ho-Oh is going to have higher TDO and lower DPS. And then the better measurement is going to be the TDO times the DPS, which is going to be a measurement of combining both of those, because we obviously want some longevity combined with DPS to be able to put out what the best attacker is in the game for each category, because there's not really a best attacker in the game. Like, sure, Mewtwo is amazing in his attack stat, but if you put a Pokemon like a Dark or Ghost Pokemon against him, he is going to be looking weak, right? Each Pokemon is like that in this game, and that's why it's very unique based on the typings of what we're going in with. Like if you put a Moltres in against a Kyogre, not going to be so good. But if you use that same Moltres against a Venusaur, it's going to be really good. So the typing is really what matters. But for the fire typing, we are going to start checking out with DPS. DPS, like I said, damage per second is going to be how powerful, how much damage that Pokemon can do with his movesets, and what is going to be the best DPS attacker. And then we will get into the other ones afterwards, and then we will wrap it up to see what the best fire attacker is in the game, and then my recommendations for if I plan on powering up an Entei and if you should power up an Entei as well. So let's check this out right now. Starting at the top, we have the Blaziken. So I did include all of the movesets in here because all of these guys get a little bit more movesets than just fire, and I know this is heavily focused on fire, so I will point out and highlight what the fires are. But we are going to start right here. The Blaziken with the counter blast burn is going to reign supreme at 17,505, and then the Blaziken with the fire spin blast burn at 17,247. And then we have the Moltres with the Fire Spin Sky Attack, which is going to be 17.36. And then getting onto the Moltres with the Fire Spin Overheat at 16.273. Then we have Blaziken again with a fire move, because Blaziken definitely has some high DPS. We have the Fire Spin and the Blaze Kick, 16.084. And then we have another Blaziken with the Counter Overheat. But then we have Charizard with that Fire Spin Blast Burn at 15.875. On to the next page, we have the Moltres up there with the Wing Attack, but then we're going to look at the Flareon with the Fire Spin Overheat at 15.724. Moving downward, we have another Blaziken with the Fire Spin Overheat at 15.592, and then we have the Entei with the Fire Spin Overheat at 15.502. Moving onwards, double fighting Blaziken we will skip over. Then we have the Entei with Fire Fang Overheat at 15.281. Flareon with Fire Spin Flamethrower at 15.223. And then we have the Charizard with the Ember and the Blast Burn. And then if you want to check out some more DPS, you can go ahead and pause this. But we have the Typhlosion sitting up at the top with the Ember Blast Burn combination at 15.166. And then I wanted to point out one more with Heatran Fire Spin Fire Blast with 14.931, and then the Mag Mortar with Fire Spin Fire Punch at 14.696. So definitely pause this if you want to check out any more of these guys. So now we are going to move on to the TDO. So notice what these guys are, right? It's the Blaziken, it's the Moltres, these higher DPS guys. And now we're going to check out what these TDO guys do, which is probably going to have a little bit of a shakeup because there's a little bit more tanky fire guys in the game when it's compared to the electric. The electric was pretty similar. The fire is going to have a little bit of a difference. So right now we're going to do the TDO, which stands for total damage output, which means the tankier the Pokemon, probably more than likely is going to have the higher TDO for his lifespan. So here we go, checking this out right now. All right, starting off with the TDO at the top. I just want to start off at the top just based on the best overall, even if it has a different moveset. So Ho-Oh Steel Wing, which is a steel move obviously, and Fire Blast at 545. So 545 is going to be the top. So sitting in the first fireplace, we have the Entei with Fire Spin Overheat at 532. Then we have the Ho-Oh with Hidden Power, if you can get the Hidden Power to go into fire with Fire Blast at 530.8. And moving on, we definitely have some more Ho-Ohs like we talked about. Then we have the Heatran with the Fire Spin Fire Blast at 529.2. And then some more Ho-Ohs, and then we have the Entei coming in with the Fire Fang Overheat, 524.7. And then we have some Moltreses with some different stuff. Another Entei popping up with all fire, Fire Spin Flamethrower at 508.8. And moving onward, we have another Entei, Fire Fang Flamethrower at 501.1. And then moving on to this next page, we have a bunch of Ho-Ohs again, all with different types of hidden power, all about the same 494. So when we look at this, we are definitely checking out, and if you want to pause this and check it over, definitely more heavily focused on that Ho-Oh. Like I said, the Ho-Oh is going to have more HP, more defense. It's going to sit in there for a lot longer. Therefore, it's going to be able to do more total damage output over the lifespan of that Pokemon, which doesn't really give us the best accurate assumption of which fire type Pokemon we want to use. Same thing with the DPS. We put something in that's very, very glassy, and if he can't even get off one special, is it really going to do anything if he has really high DPS? Not really. That's where the TDO times the DPS comes into play, because it's very important for us to check this out. So let's check out the TDO times DPS, because this is going to combine that high damage output with the longer lifespan for the better average of the two, and then we will use our trainer brains to see if it is going to be worth powering up. So here we go, checking this out right now. So starting off at the top, this is amazing, man. Moltres with the Fire Spin Sky Attack, which is a very dominant move, has a 2,742.9. Wow, that is pretty high. Then we have Moltres, all with different types of sky fire combinations, but the first all fire is going to be Moltres with Fire Spin Overheat at 2,117. So that is about 600, a little bit over, less than a Moltres with the Sky Attack Fire Spin, but if you're using the Moltres for the fire, you obviously want both fire moves to get that stab effectiveness. So the benchmark for this metric, which is going to be the DPS times TDO, is going to sit at 2,117. So we will compare everything to that. So then we have the Blaziken with the Counter Blast Burn at 2,083. We have the Entei sitting in there with the Fire Spin Overheat at 1,982. So that's 200, a little bit under 200 points below the Moltres. Then we have the Blaziken with the Fire Spin Blast Burn at 1963, the Moltres with another wing attack in there, and then we have the Entei sitting in there again with the Fire Fang Overheat at 1872, and then we have the Heatran, but that Heatran does not have the moveset that's optimal for the fire. But then we have the Heatran with the Fire Spin Fire Blast at 1761, and then that Charizard with the Fire Spin Blast Burn at 1665, and then we have the Entei with the Fire Spin Flamethrower at 1655. So the Entei number 1 is going to be 1982. The Entei number 2 is going to be 1655. So about 300 points lower based on the moveset, which is pretty crazy. Then we have that Moltres coming in with that Ember Overheat at 1589. And then moving onwards, I want to go down to this Flareon with the Fire Spin Overheat at a 1465, which is over 600 points lower. And then if you guys want to pause here, I'm just going to point out two different ones just because of the notable mention. We have the Typhlosion with the Ember Blast Burn at 1387. And then we have another Heatran, but this is going to be the Bug Bite Fire Blast Heatran with the 1342. So taking that into account, we obviously see the difference in the shakeup. We still maintain some of those fires attackers, which the Moltres is sitting at the absolute top. I really like the Moltres, honestly. If you don't have a fire attacker powered up and you're considering which one to power up, I would definitely start with the Moltres because he has a 251 attack, so his attack is pretty up there. He has some decent defense. He also has some decent stamina. Definitely a Pokemon that you want to consider up, but the main question is, what do we do with this Entei because we just completed his raid day? So Entei will max out a little bit lower than the Moltres at a 3473, so he is pretty good. Definitely somebody we want to consider. Definitely one of the higher fire attackers in the game. Oh, you're good. He has an attack at 235, so if we are going to compare the two of them together, we're looking at the stats of the Entei with the attack of 235, rank 53. The Moltres is 251 at a 25. Then we're looking at the defense at a 171, rank 152. The defense of the Moltres is 181 at rank 113. And then we're looking at the stamina of the Entei, which is why he sits higher on that TDO than the Moltres does, because he's got a stamina of 251 with a rank of 18, and then the Moltres has a stamina of 207 at a rank of 78. So with all of this data, everything that we have analyzed, my question for you guys is, what do you think about the Entei? Is it something that you are looking to power up, or are you gonna hold right now? My number one thing that I always recommend is only power guys up unless you have the resources. Like I said, like 5 to 10 million Stardust, maybe like double the amount of candy that you need to max one. So like about 300, 400, 500 candy where you can max another one if you need to. I always suggest to wait until this Pokemon is applicable in the raid to be able to power them up. So like if you were like thinking like, okay, we have a steel Pokemon that comes out, like let's say tier 4 Metagross came out and it was shiny, you're like, I'm gonna do a lot of Metagross raids. Now would be the time to think about powering up your fire. If you don't have this abundance of resources, you want to save to power up based on what the raid bosses are. Like right now, Mewtwo, Giratina Origin Form, great time to power it up. Entei, fire attacker, not the best time to power it up. Use the raid bosses to decide if you're going to power it up. So that's my number one. My number two, Moltres is definitely the supreme fire attacker in the game as far as DPS times TDO. He sits at the top. He sets the benchmark for the all fire attacker. So that's definitely another thing that you want to take into account. So if you don't already have a max Moltres or you don't have a good one, maybe don't power anything up right now. The second thing is Entei is number 2. So he definitely has a little bit more stamina. He's gonna sit in there just a little bit longer. He's just not gonna do as much damage as the Moltres does. So depending on what type of Pokemon you like, you can go ahead and choose based on that. And finally, we have to assess their moveset. So they both get Overheat, which is a 1-bar special, which I'm not the biggest fan of, honestly. That Overheat definitely takes a little bit more, and with Moltres being a little bit glassier and Entei being a little bit more tankier, that Overheat is gonna take a little bit more time to charge up because it's a 1-bar special as opposed to Blast Burn. Like if one of these guys both got Blast Burn, whew, that would be a very, very powerful Pokemon, because then you get that 2-bar special, which already gives you an advantage, and Blast Burn is a very dominant move. So based on that, all of those things taking into account, I would say to wait on powering up the Entei until you need him. Do not power him up. It's not like you have to have him right now. It's definitely not necessary, but if you decide to, he's definitely a good one. I have 2 max. I have a max Moltres. I'm definitely gonna max another Moltres, especially after doing this research on this video, because he's definitely dominant. But one of his moves is gonna be Sky Attack, which was the 3-hour legacy move that we got for him. So I'm gonna need to unlock a second charge attack on that guy so I can have him for all fire, and I can also use him as a flying dominant attacker Pokemon. So that's where we're at right now, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this content. Make sure to share it to anybody that's considering powering up an Entei, and definitely trade those shiny Enteis with lucky friends to get shiny lucky Enteis. And then if you have that lucky Entei, it's more of an easy way to power it up, because you can power up 2 for the price of 1, or you can just do 1 for 50% of the Stardust. So in that case, I would recommend you powering it up. So now I want to take the time out to say thank you so much to all my subscribers. Thank you for everybody that shares my video, watches my video, puts those thumbs ups, writes those comments. You know I'm doing my best to check all those comments. And then finally, thank you guys for supporting me on Patreon. Every little bit helps, even if it's just the smallest amount. It doesn't really matter. As smaller content creators and growing, we definitely really appreciate the support, and we appreciate you guys being a part of the Trainer Club at that next level. So I will see you out on the next video. Peace. I just wanted to take a moment and sincerely thank every single person that decided to take their subscription and their support to me to the next level as a small channel, and really trying to grow and hit new levels and be able to travel and really meet up with a lot of my fans and the communities around the world and the US especially. I just want to say that your support really means a lot to me. It helps me out, and I greatly appreciate you for being a part of the Trainer Club. Thank you so much.